Sprinkles. I like sprinkles. Now, expose yourself to a bit of art here. Um, where did this monkey business come from? And this barrel of monkeys that I first learned about would have had to have been, uh, grade 4 or 5, and learning about David Suzuki and PCBs, DDT, Agent Orange, super fun sites much later in my life. Then also the contamination and the forever chemicals, which is something that I've been recently re-educating or reminding myself of, because all of these things they influence reproduction, and the same with gene therapy, which would be mRNA vaccines. Okay. Um, and there's problems with this, obviously, that when we try to play God, that we're going to suffer the consequences, especially when it comes to eugenics, judgmentality, and just trying to breed people into better people, which has been a fallacy of royalty for many, many hundreds of years, trying to maintain purity of a bloodline, um, which is the exact reason why the Habsburgs were so fucked up. Okay. And it's amazing that that family was still reproducing as long as it was after the fact, with the jaw and everything else. And sorry, what's it, the concentration of a religious belief system to power, because of whatever reason, of the culture of the era. Say, one group was persecuted and placed and put into one part of the geography, and so on and so forth. And then, again, the concepts that, as I've mentioned before, that we have 5 distinct family origins on the planet, and it's not just strictly out of Africa, because the Oot was disproven not that long ago, because of what, Lucy or something like along those lines. But the missing link, the missing puzzle pieces are these contaminants, and with a basic understanding of organic chemistry, you will be blown away, as to, well, actually, no, you don't know until you do know, but I say that a lot. um, you know. And you think about things and how humanity has survived through all of these inventions that we've made for ourselves. So you think about, they were putting uranium or lead into white makeup, right? And mercury was used in dyes, for felt or wool hats. Mad as a Hatter. And then you think about, say, like lead poisoning with the Salem witch trials, and then even further into the drug supply, even the illegal drug supply. There was many products that were developed in the 19th century, say like Coca-Cola, that were said to be medicinal. Same with Pepsi, which had pepsin in it, and ginger ale, which all had real ginger in it. These soda jerk fountain things, with the syrups, and the syrups were initially, supposed to be, well, you would go to the bar at the apothecary, right? You go to the pharmacy, and that's where you go to your pop stand, as it is in North America. So what I'm really trying to say here is that, the interest, and again, the the passion for environmentalism is one of my core tenets as a person, because you can't be an outdoorsman, and you can't be a mountain biker, and you can't be a hiker, um, a hunter, or anything unless you understand the ecosystem that which you belong to. And the ecosystem that I belong to here in London is filled with freaking stupid gay people. So the only thing to do in the arts community was to play along in order to survive, especially with cultural pretexts. Now, if things change, and as they should, because when there's a concentration of too many toxins, and I'm not calling gay people toxins or queer people toxins, but they do have a higher concentration of these things in their bloodstreams, as well as higher rates of hepatitis and of yeah, again, other bloodborne diseases. This is why the blood bank was testing for Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease for 20 years later. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease was what it's the brain rot, right? It's the mad cow disease, and you can rot your brain by drug use and fry your synapses, and then you have atrophy of the fatty tissue cells in your brain. And that's what starts happening, is that when again you start taking too many, that's the burnout, right? Because you're not only getting rid of it, getting rid of the insulation by by having when was it, because you have to have a certain pH level of your body, um, in order to not oxidate, right? Um, because organic chemistry, I'm around as an oil painter. These paints have heavy metals in them, especially like the cadmium, the cobalt, the purple, the dioxane purple. The lead white, they used to do a lot more. I don't use it. I use like mixing white, or titanium white is another one, and it goes on and on and on. It just the pigments. Again, once you learn about the base materials and where it all comes from, um, then the uh, periodical of our cycle in each year, uh, as a people, and even with like every 4 to 6 years, 4 to 7 years, in line with the replacement of every single cell. Um, that is the basis of change. And when we get in the middle of that, then we get these mutations. And I was just watching the woman that looked like the girl with wings, where her arms weren't fully developed, and it looks like she's a survivor of thalidomide, um, but she isn't. But she still has a kid, okay? And the interesting part about that is that even people who have genetic mutations or physical disabilities can still have children, and in all likelihood, their genome, when selected, and again, we're talking about in the mRNA, so that's the RNA within the ribonucleic acid inside of the mitochondria, okay. Again, I'm just pulling this out of my ass as much as I remember, because that's what it's about. Is about the assembly of those four, the Gattaca. Um, and in order, again, there's this misguided thought that we're gonna send the very best of us to Mars. Like, that's the entire plot line of Gattaca, and we're playing God in the process, and it is a complete waste of time. It's a complete waste of time, and the arrogance that some scientists have because of their religious and moral superiority complexes is frankly scary. But as soon as they get to the other planet, and because they think that they know everything, they'll just get eaten up by another life form. Either it's a microbe, or it's a giant flying Ramses goat. You know, um, whatever. Because adaptation is genetic mutation. and nature prefers novelty. So, in all likelihood, the more unique you are as a person, the more likely you will to be to survive the onslaught of what's going to happen within the next few years because of the differentiation and because of the divergence of the people that took the vaccine and those of us that didn't. Okay, it's unavoidable, and you cannot dance around the misinformation. It is what it is, and if you don't trust a scientist when they tell you about this, then you deserve exactly what you get, and what you're going to get is infertility. The writing's on the wall. It was the entire time, and this is what made me so nervous and so, frankly, suicidal. Is because, again, you play XCOM and you see exactly, like, again, you look into psychological warfare and soft disclosure and predictive programming. Oh, we're gonna do this soon. And or someone is inspired by a video game or by a book as to how they're going to do a Mass Effect genophage as gene therapy for a population that is completely and utterly inbred and hopelessly doomed because of their choices in the past and because they forsook, if you're going to get religious here, they forsook religious texts and the faith to God, and they stopped respecting the sanctity of life and the reproductive cycle, and they interfered with natural selection, and because they did that, they deserve to die. I'm serious. It's a Nuremberg trial, I'm telling you. So that's why they've been avoiding all of this. They're trying to memory hole the whole 2019 through 2022 scenario, and that's where it comes down to, is that an intelligence gap. There really is, because if you knew anything about virology beforehand, you would have known about herd immunity, and that again, if we have traditional vaccines and we have these experimental ones, but they're experiments for a reason. This is not misinformation, YouTube. Okay, you can strike me again for this shit. And soldiers are always the first ones to get experimented on. First thing that I think about is the malaria vaccine or the Gulf War syndrome, and those were and then again, the lead poisoning or cross contamination and lack of knowledge about Agent Orange and the defoliation agents. But because there was obviously there was evidence after the fact that it really screwed up the Vietnamese and their children thereafter. And this is where, okay, we're in southwestern Ontario, and southwestern Ontario uh, is or was a manufacturing center, with Michigan on the other side of the lake, right? Michigan, Illinois, New York, right? Where all the automotive producers are. And you have Superfund sites all over the fucking place. And so this stuff gets blown across the lake and settles on the farmland here in Ontario. Because the jet stream changes, right? It goes up and down, and it shifts and stuff like that. And it's unavoidable. We don't control it. And we have all these chickens are coming home to roost at exactly the same time to create a doomsday scenario, that for which people will take advantage of with disaster capitalism. I'm predicting it. COVID's not really over. It just changed form. It mutated into something else. And that's what they wanted to happen, is because they don't look at you and me as being the same people, and that we're forsaken until we take on their religion. And frankly, I ain't about that, and I ain't going to do that. I like my Bible the way that it is. Thank you very much. Nonetheless, if you haven't figured it out by now, This also applies to mushrooms and other spores, which after a certain amount of time, there's the Epoch Times put out recently that even marijuana can alter your DNA, which is true. Habit forming actions or substances will change your DNA, right? Because it becomes a symbiotic relationship um, between you and the addictive substance or the addictive behavior. And because there's the, I don't know, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a historian and an idiot, amongst everything else. All the other hats I wear. Goodness gracious. So yeah, scary times. Thanks for listening to this rambling. I don't know exactly what I'm going to call it. Uh, Probably XCOM or something. See you in the next one.